Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about purpose, audience, and context, which make up the channels of communication. Three important concepts that you want to think about before you do any communicating in a professional setting. So let's talk about this dude, Marshall McLuhan, a very, very famous Canadian who passed away now, what was it, 40 years ago? He was a Canadian media scholar, so he was an intellectual and a theorist. He theorized about communications. Very, very well respected gentleman. He became famous for coining a number of buzzwords that we hear today, like the global village. Excellent. And he also said the famous line, "The medium is the message." Right? You might have seen commercials about this. Back when the government was promoting our Canadian culture. And he predicted the internet 30 years before it was invented. So pretty amazing. So what is the medium? What is the medium is the message? Well, it was a book that he published on this, but basically he said this, the method by which you choose to communicate, that's the medium. So that's the container of your message, right? A medium, right? So it could be a text, it could be a phone call, it could be a note, a post-it note. And then the message goes inside the medium. That's what you're actually saying, the words you're using, the written words or the verbal communication. So when you say the medium is the message, it's just a concept that signifies that um, the medium you choose is almost or just as important as the message itself, right? How you communicate says a lot about the importance of the communication or what you're trying to convey. So let's get into that. Here's some mediums. All right. Well, we've got traditional electronic mass media. So that's radio, television, film. Modern electronic is the internet, right? That's it. And then you have niche modern electronic, which is basically all your social apps, texting, etc. There's print, still very popular. Books, not dying, not going to ebooks. Still, publishers are doing quite well. Newspapers, not so much, but they're still there. Essays, poems, flyers, bookmarks, pamphlets. Those are all types of mediums. And then there's voice. You can do it face by face, which is less and less possible these days. Telephone, Zoom. These are all mediums. They're containers for the message, right? And you can say the same message in different containers, and by doing that, you change the meaning almost entirely. Okay, consider the letter. A typed letter or a handwritten letter, depending on what they say, they carry very different meanings, right? If you write a handwritten letter, it's probably informal. It's probably you want to be personal, right? You write a Christmas card, you write a note to your friend saying thank you for helping me bury those bodies. That says something very different than typing it out, right? A typed letter is more cold, impersonal. It's still more personal getting a typed letter than getting an email, all right? So think about your medium. Here's a great example. Wedding invitations. Unfortunately, the greeting card industry, Hallmark, etc., they're losing a lot of money. Yes, but still, people are using them for birthdays. Uh, not Halloween, but Christmas cards, Valentine's Day. A lot of people expect these things, um, so people are still using them. Why? It's free to send an e-card. Why don't we just send an e-card to our wife or husband or partner? I don't know. I mean, maybe we should. However, would you send? Some of you may be married already. Would you send your wedding invitation by email as an evite? Maybe not. I mean, my wife and I, we did, but we also sent a paper, postcard as well. You probably wouldn't though. You wouldn't send an evite alone for your wedding invite, right? Unless you're maybe struggling financially. Uh, because there's something special about getting a wedding invite. It shows you that this is a formal, momentous occasion. If you get a text message about inviting you to the wedding, people might not even care about going to your wedding at that point. So let's talk about the first two concepts, purpose and the audience. I think we know what this is. The purpose is, well, why are you sending this communication? Why are you picking up the phone? Why are you texting? What's your purpose, right? Always think about that. That's the primary leg of the table here that you should think about when you're crafting a message. So what is the purpose usually? Well, there's just three main ones. Number one, to persuade. So if you're selling something, you want to convince someone of something, motivate them to do something, or gain for your personal gain. Another reason you communicate, to inform people. So to announce a birth, to announce that there's cake in the break room, to answer questions, to explain something, hey, there's a meeting at 5 o'clock, can you join me? Or maybe it's just to entertain, maybe you want to send something funny to your friend to get them laughing. Of course, and so to remember those three things, just think about PIE: persuade, inform, entertain. And of course, it might be a combination of two or I think all three is possible. You can do all three in one communication. So think about your purpose. Why are you sending this communication? And then you start thinking about your audience. Even after you have your purpose, you got to think about, okay, how professional does this need to be? Am I sending this to my colleagues or to my buddies, across the world? How permanent do you want it to be? Do you want this to stick around? If so, maybe you publish it in the newspaper. If you don't want it to stick around, maybe you send it as a encrypted text message. I don't know. Do you want to be intimate with somebody, which means like really close to them, or do you want to be formal, which means more at a distance? How much cost do you want to spend? A lot of money? How much effort do you want to take? It's hard work doing wedding invitations versus just sending an evite. And how confidential do you want it to be? Keep in mind that emails can be flipped at the click of a button to someone else, so be careful about that. So with the wedding example, you assume that you want permanence. Someone wants to maybe hang on to your wedding invite for a memento, and you want it to be seen as formal, right? Weddings are formal occasions. They're a big deal. You maybe do it once or maybe a few times in your life. So that will inform your decision on the medium to choose, right? As well as the cost, of course. Here's another scenario. Bob wants a divorce from Betty. They've been married for 10 years, but Bob decides, all right, it's time. We're never going to make this work. So he leaves her, of course, a Post-it note telling them that, it's over, right? No, of course not. You're not going to divorce your partner of 10 years with a Post-it note, right? Hopefully. How would you do it? Text message? Damn, I hope not. An email? That's very impersonal and cold as well. A letter in the mail? Through your lawyer? Maybe. Yeah, it happens, I guess. Post-it note? No. Face-to-face conversation? Almost certainly you would have that conversation face-to-face. Would you do it over lunch, though? In a restaurant? Nah, I don't think so. You do it in a private place, wouldn't you? Consider this opposite scenario. You, Bob, wants to ask out Betty. Right? How should he do it? I don't know. I mean, I've been out of the dating world for a while, but if I recall, texting wasn't really a great way to do it. An email, almost unheard of. You email someone to ask them out. Although I did get a date once with that method. A letter, now pretty strange, right? Maybe if you were in the 1900s, perhaps. A Post-it note, unlikely. Face-to-face conversation. Okay, now we're getting more realistic. That's probably the right medium for that type of communication. Flowers and an anonymous note, I wouldn't recommend that. That's kind of creepy. Consider this final scenario. Bob is close friends with Betty. He learns via office chatter that Betty's mother has died. Poor Betty. Bob knows Betty and her mother were very close, and he wants to express his concern for his friend. So what does he do? Does he text her, hey, I'm sorry your mom died, passed away, whatever? An email, a letter, Post-it note, face-to-face conversation could do if you have that relationship. Typically a sympathy card is safe. I've worked in enough offices to know that someone's relative is dying on the regular every few months or quarters. And what does the office do? Well, not everyone's going to want to go and talk to that person at their cubicle. Maybe you get a sympathy card and everyone signs it, right? That's an appropriate medium for that type of communication. Would you do it by an e-card? I don't know. That's, again, questionable. So what is audience analysis? You want to look at the purpose for your communication, but then you have to look at your audience, right? Because different message going to a room full of DJs versus a room full of grandmas, right? So we already know that good communication involves some degree of audience analysis. Who are you talking to? So can you use humor? With some people, you most certainly cannot. Do you need to be professional? In some cases, that might be weird if it's a very informal group, right? If you're talking to children, for example, you wouldn't want to be professional. What are your audience's beliefs? How much education do they have? Which culture are you talking to? Is it a mixed group of different ethnicities, and what's their attitude toward you and toward the subject matter, right? If you're going into a hostile room, you're going to have a very different message than if you go into a group of people that love you, right? So in order to understand your audience, ask just 4 questions. How much does our audience know about the subject? If they're experts, great, you hit the ground running. If they're not experts, maybe you give them some background and some context. Number 2, how might our audience respond to this message? Are they happy, angry? Do they not care? How might our audience see the medium of communication? If someone gets a text message firing them, they might see that as really a terrible thing to do, which it would be. Or whereas if you go face to face, that's probably better. Even a letter is kind of impersonal. Is our tone too intimate? Maybe you don't know this person well enough to be calling them by the first name or by talking about personal stuff. Are you too detached? Are you talking to your good friend and you're trying to be professional? Weird. Are you too formal or too informal? You get the point, right? So you want to know your audience to tailor your communications after you figure out your purpose. So here's a list for business writing anyway. And business writing differs from academic writing in these ways. So for the purposes of this class, please simplify your language whenever possible. Use, like I said with Mark Twain, use a 5-cent word versus a $5 word, right? Use poor versus impoverished. We don't need to go too formal. We're not looking for formal language in this class. We're not writing an academic paper. We are doing business level, right? Business level, which is what you're going to encounter in the work world, most likely. So simplify language, short sentences whenever you can, cut the fluff. Use, if you can, bulleted lists and graphics. I am big on bulleted lists when it's appropriate. If you are writing out a list of things, it might be more appropriate to write it as a list of bullets. Much easier on the eyes to see that. And it breaks up the monotony of your writing. Remember the wall of text, day 1? Do not do a wall of text. Use paragraphs, headings, bullets. I want to see this. You're going to get more marks for it, so please do it. If you have questions about that, just email me. And then use the U view. We're going to get more into this in another lecture, but the U view means you're putting yourself in the reader's shoes or the person that's listening to you, their shoes. It means that, yes, we are all the center of our own universes, myself included, but the other person doesn't care about you as much as they care about themselves. So when you're writing to them, think about how they're going to receive this message, right? We're going to get much deeper into this. So use the second person pronoun you, right? You will have seen, or you will note, or you might be interested to know, because really the reader only cares about what's in it for them. And then, by the way, use a conversational tone and style whenever possible. Not too informal, not hey bro, don't ever want to see that, but use a conversational style that doesn't sound like you're a corporate robot, right? Be personable, be courteous, be kind, be funny if you can. This is a great checklist of things to do to apply to your writing. And then that's it, folks. So I'm asking you just to read a few passages from our textbook to support this material. I think it works out to less than 20 pages. So give that a read this week and hit up FOL to see what else we're talking about this week. Thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.